2023 was a great year for video games, but there were a few I played through this year that really stood out to me. First up, Steelrising. This is an interesting Souls-like developed by a French team. In fact, the plot is an alternate 18th century France, in which you're a robotic bodyguard for Marie Antoinette. Like many Souls-likes, this isn't quite as good as a true From Software game in any way, but I really enjoyed it. After some early game difficulty, the game became very easy for me compared to a Dark Souls or a Bloodborne. I beat most of the bosses on my first try, and I didn't lose any experience points by dying again before I could retrieve them, even once in my entire playthrough. One surprise to me was how, unlike many games that start strong and then lose their way, this game actually got better as it went along. I really enjoyed it. Atari 50. I mistakenly assumed that this was just another collection of old Atari 2600 games. It's actually a detailed timeline of the entire history of Atari, with scans of promotional materials, interoffice memos and flyers, as well as television commercials, interviews, and playable games from the arcades and VCS in the 70s, all the way up through even the Lynx and Jaguar in the 90s. What impressed me most was how honest it was about the missteps, poor management, and meddling from executives that caused the company to really never recover after the crash of the early 80s. One of the scans is of a gift certificate for a free turkey. It had been given as a year-end bonus to the programmer of the 2600 version of Missile Command, which had sold 2.5 million copies that year. He quit. This is such a fascinating and well-made history of the company who launched the arcade and home console market. Definitely check this out. Super Mario Wonder. Personally, I thought all the new Super Mario Bros. Games were fine, but artistically, they just felt sterile and generic. Super Mario Wonder makes up for that big time. This is easily my favorite 2D Mario game since Super Mario World came out 30 years ago. The badges you collect and the characters you can pick from essentially let you set your own difficulty level, so kids and adults can play together without too much frustration. The developers just had a field day implementing clever ideas in this. It felt like nearly every stage featured new enemies and new gameplay mechanics. I really enjoyed it. Chained Echoes. I got sick of hearing everybody talk about how great this game is, so I went ahead and bought it. Everybody was right. The creator of this game set out to make a modern game in a 16-bit JRPG style that made younger gamers feel the way he felt when he played classics like Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI back in the 90s. I think he succeeded. There are so many intelligent game mechanics that amount to quality of life improvements to the old formulas, like automatically regaining full health and magic after every battle, always being able to run away, fast travel from virtually anywhere, and a clever overdrive system that rewards you for swapping out party members and trying different moves during combat. But what I wasn't expecting was such an incredibly interesting and clever story. I was genuinely invested in these characters and their world, and stayed interested throughout the entire 60 hours I played it. Believe the hype and give Chained Echoes a try. One of my surprise favorites this year was a game called Inscryption. This is a roguelike deck builder that subverts your expectations and is much more than what it first appears to be. I bought it because it looked fun, not even realizing that it was made by Daniel Mullins, who created the clever and subversive Pony Island, which I enjoyed several years ago. These types of games are difficult to explain without spoiling the fun, so I'll just say, trust me, and trust the 88,000 overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. Returnal. I almost skipped this one because of its bullet hell mechanics, but a friend I trust recommended it, and I'm really glad he did. This is probably the only AAA roguelike that I'm aware of. You play as a woman trapped in an endless loop on an alien planet, waking up at her crashed ship each time she dies. There are some truly brilliant twists in the story, and equally brilliant gameplay. Much like Hades, one of my favorite games I played last year, each run is randomized, from the room layout and enemies you encounter to the weapons and perks you find. I thought I had breezed through the game easily. I beat the boss of the second area the first time I encountered him, which was only my second visit to that area, only to find out that I had merely reached the halfway point. The second half ramped up the difficulty significantly, but I still loved it. A great co-op mode and a challenging tower area separate from the main story have been added for free, and they're a lot of fun too. This game was criminally overlooked. If you have a PS5 or a PC and love a challenge, you should definitely check this out. Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. Meant as a bridge between the story of Yakuza 7 and the upcoming Yakuza 8, this game follows Kiryu's exploits after faking his own death to protect the people he loves following the events of Yakuza 6. Kiryu's 007-style gadgets are the only real deviation from the standard formula here. It's a bit short for a Yakuza game, but that's to be expected. Once you get through the surprisingly emotional tear-jerker of a finale, a fun playable demo for Yakuza 8 is unlocked. I really had a lot of fun with this one. Yakuza 5. Man, what a game. I know this one's not new, but I only just got around to it. I spent 95 hours in this game, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like 5 different games followed by an explosive finale. You play as 5 different characters, each exploring a different city, beating down thugs with their own unique style, and working through their own sub-story. One is working as a taxi driver, and you have to follow traffic laws while carrying on conversations with your passengers, as well as defeat a gang in street racing contests. Another spends time hunting in the snowy mountains of Hokkaido, trapping small game and stalking a legendary bear. Or help a young girl dance and sing her way to pop idol stardom in the streets of Osaka. The variety is so incredible and the game is so long that when characters show back up later, you may forget you met them in this game. I love the Yakuza series, but this one was my favorite. Lies of P. I've played a lot of Souls-likes over the years, like the Neo games, The Surge and its sequel, and Steelrising earlier this year. Lies of P feels more like a true Souls game than anything else I've ever played. If the box had the From Software logo on it, I never would have questioned it. Normally, games with staggering mechanics frustrate me, but they just clicked in Lies of P for some reason. The level design, the slightly steampunk aesthetic, everything about this game is so polished and well thought out. If you liked Bloodborne, this game is a must-play. But I have to say, my game of the year was Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I went into this as blind as possible. As much as I love Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom is so much better in every way. Even though the world is so enormous, there are fun things to do every couple of steps you take. The world is nearly 3 times as big, the new abilities are tons of fun, and the story is genuinely clever. The quote-unquote dungeons are arguably even weaker than the sacred beasts were in Breath of the Wild, but that's fine. There are thousands of other videos explaining why this game is great, so I'll spare you a rehash. This game is simply amazing. So those are my 10 favorite games of 2023. But don't stop here. I've got one more video where I talk about the 2 most disappointing games that I finished in 2023. And you may have noticed that they were conspicuously absent from these last 2 videos. Thanks for watching.